President Donald Trump, known for his aggressive trade policies, has once again stirred controversy with a bold threat. This time his target is the BRICS nation: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Trump has vowed to impose a staggering 100% tariff on all goods imported from these countries if they abandon the US dollar in trade. This threat, delivered with characteristic bluster, has sent shockwaves through the global economy, raising concerns about a potential trade war. Trump's threat stems from his belief that the BRICS nations are deliberately undermining the US dollar's dominance in global trade. He argues that these countries engage in unfair trade practices and currency manipulation to gain an economic advantage over the United States. This aggressive stance towards BRICS reflects Trump's broader America First agenda, which prioritizes protecting American jobs and businesses even at the cost of global economic stability. The potential implications of Trump's tariff threat are far-reaching. A trade war with BRICS could disrupt global supply chains, increase prices for consumers worldwide, and damage businesses on both sides. Moreover, it could further inflame geopolitical tensions and undermine the rules-based trading system that has underpinned global prosperity for decades. While Trump's threat has been met with defiance from some BRICS leaders, others have expressed concerns about the potential economic fallout. The international community is watching closely, uncertain whether Trump's tariff threat is a negotiating tactic or a prelude to a full-blown trade war. The acronym BRICS represents 5 of the world's leading emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These nations are home to over 40% of the world's population and represent a significant portion of global GDP. Over the past few decades, BRICS nations have experienced rapid economic growth, fueled by factors such as industrialization, urbanization, and a growing middle class. The rise of BRICS has challenged the traditional dominance of Western economies in global affairs. These emerging markets have become major players in international trade, investment, and finance. Their growing economic clout has also given them a more assertive voice on the global stage, advocating for reforms in international institutions and pushing for a more multipolar world order. The BRICS nations have also deepened cooperation amongst themselves, establishing institutions like the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement to finance infrastructure projects and provide financial stability. This growing collaboration among BRICS nations, particularly in the realm of trade and finance, has raised concerns in Washington about a potential challenge to the US dollar's hegemony. At the heart of Trump's tariff threat lies a fundamental concern: the potential decline of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. For decades, the dollar has enjoyed an unparalleled status in global trade and finance. Most commodities are priced in dollars, and central banks around the world hold vast reserves of US Treasury bonds. This dominance has given the United States significant economic and geopolitical leverage. However, the BRICS nations, along with other countries, have grown increasingly wary of this dollar-centric system. They argue that it gives the United States an unfair advantage and exposes them to the risks of US economic policies. Moreover, the weaponization of the dollar through sanctions by the United States has motivated countries like Russia and China to seek alternatives. Trump views any move away from the dollar as a direct threat to American economic interests. He fears that it could lead to a decline in the value of the dollar, making imports more expensive and fueling inflation in the United States. Trump's tariff threat is a desperate attempt to protect the dollar's preeminence. He believes that by imposing crippling tariffs, he can dissuade BRICS nations from abandoning the dollar and maintain America's economic dominance. However, this approach carries significant risks, potentially igniting a trade war that could harm both the US and global economies. Section 4. Tariff immunity: why some BRICS nations remain unfazed. While Trump's tariff threat has undoubtedly caused anxiety in global markets, some BRICS nations appear relatively unfazed. This seeming indifference stems from several factors, including their diversified economies, existing trade relationships, and ongoing efforts to reduce reliance on the US dollar. Take, for instance, Russia and China. two BRICS members that have borne the brunt of US sanctions in recent years. These countries have actively sought to reduce their dependence on the dollar by promoting the use of their own currencies in bilateral trade and exploring alternative payment systems. Similarly, India and Brazil, with their vast internal markets and diversified export baskets, are less vulnerable to US pressure. While a 100% tariff would undoubtedly hurt, it's unlikely to cripple their economies. These nations are also actively pursuing trade agreements with other countries, further reducing their reliance on the US market. Section 5. An empty threat, doubting the tariff storm. While Trump's tariff threat against BRICS has generated significant media attention, some analysts believe it to be an empty threat, a negotiating tactic designed to extract concessions rather than a policy he intends to implement. They point to several factors that cast doubt on the feasibility and effectiveness of such a drastic measure. Firstly, imposing a 100% tariff on all goods from BRICS nations would be extremely difficult to enforce and would likely face legal challenges both domestically and at the World Trade Organization. Such a move would also disrupt global supply chains and harm American businesses that rely on imports from these countries. Secondly, the potential economic fallout from a trade war with BRICS would be significant for the United States. Higher prices for consumers, job losses in sectors reliant on imports, and retaliatory tariffs from BRICS nations could plunge the US economy into a recession. Finally, Trump's history of making bold pronouncements followed by policy reversals suggests that his tariff threat may be more bark than bite. He has often used such tactics to project strength and exert pressure, but has shown a willingness to back down when faced with stiff opposition or potential economic damage. Section 6. Global and domestic tremors. The potential fallout. The potential consequences of Trump's tariff threat extend far beyond the economic realm. The imposition of such tariffs could have significant geopolitical and social ramifications, both domestically and internationally. On the global stage, a trade war between the United States and BRICS nations could further fragment the global trading system and exacerbate existing geopolitical tensions. It could also undermine international cooperation on pressing issues such as climate change, pandemics, and nuclear proliferation. Domestically, a trade war would likely lead to higher prices for consumers, job losses in sectors reliant on imports, and a decline in economic growth. It could also fuel political polarization and social unrest, as different segments of society bear the brunt of the economic fallout. Moreover, the imposition of tariffs could damage the reputation of the United States as a reliable trading partner and undermine its global leadership. It could also embolden other countries to pursue protectionist policies, leading to a spiral of tit-for-tat tariffs that harm the global economy. In conclusion, Trump's tariff threat against BRICS represents a high-stakes gamble with potentially dire consequences. It reflects a desperate attempt to cling to a fading world order and a dangerous disregard for the principles of free trade and multilateralism that have underpinned global prosperity for decades. The international community must stand firm against such reckless policies and advocate for a rules-based, cooperative approach to address the challenges facing the global economy.